Thank you, thank you. Okay, lovely. Thanks for reading that, Steve. And Adi, if you're ready, I'll hand over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Mia. Thanks, Ian, for asking me to share. Yeah, step 7. I don't know. What would come to an I was always asked to do. When to do I've sort of followed the rules, what I was told, and then surrender. Not really done what I didn't want to do. So got good at doing what I don't want to do, in a sense. And so here I am, step 7. God, I always seem to get step 7 as well. Right? Okay, when they're going to ask me to do a step 11, you know what I mean? But it's never. I'm like the expert in step 7. Step 6 or step 7. I've done so many shares on step 6 and step 7, and to be, I don't, and that's actually where I'm at the moment. I'm on step 7, I'm going through the steps again. I've just started step 7. I'm sort of giving it a bit of a breather before going to step 7 from the step 6 to let that settle in. And, I don't know. Coming down here today, I'm thinking, what's step 7? I've got that imposter syndrome, I don't know what I'm doing, and then I've got the anxiety, do I qualify to be in this room? And people, it's like, what are people going to think? Self-obsession, that's self-centeredness, and I suppose, step 7 is really getting, away from my self-centeredness. I've got all my character defects, and, I've looked at them at step 6, and they've caused me a lot of pain. Probably as much pain as they have done my drugs that caused in a different sense, the consequences of my drug use in with jails and institutions, mainly jails, lots of them, and homelessness, just in the madness, it was, it weren't pretty what brought me, but eventually I surrendered, and I suppose that's what I'm saying is, through surrender, I'm asked to do something that doesn't come naturally to me, and then, I think once again is, step 6 and 7 might go together, but also like step 3 and step 7, maybe step 11, they've got a sort of link to them, that initial, handing it all over, letting go, having some faith, and trusting in the process, and doing what you don't want to do, which is what you have to do when you write step 4. I think, why am I doing this step 4 you're asking me to do? It's unnatural, isn't it? It's not a natural thing for me to do, is to write a load of stuff, information about myself, and then step 5, you've got to share it. It's even worse, isn't it? So you have to sort of go against the grain, so to speak. And I suppose in my recovery, from having nothing, from having nowhere to go, for having only the NA doors open, for me, to have people to say, come back, do you want a cup of tea, good to see you, it was really important to me. When you knew it's so important, I was ready to run. And then I sort of, maybe I don't know if we get complacent, but over the period of time, I've been doing meetings for a lot of years, I did my first meeting in 2000. I had a relapse in the middle of 2009, but pretty much 25 years I've been doing meetings, and I've been, I've had plenty of time to notice my defects growing in the dark, really, where I didn't really know them to grow, because I built a life in NA. I got the family, I had the kids, I got reunited with my eldest son, he's now 28, and I got to see him, and I had children, and I started going to work and things like that, and I got business, and I got really quite good at it, you know what I mean? And I got all these things, and I was really driven to get this stuff, really driven, and so many years of not doing nothing, just really dying on the inside. I got clean, and I was like, yeah, here I go, I'm going to take life, and I just went running out there, just wanted it all. However, it was almost like getting a using. And don't get me wrong, the world rewards you for that behaviour, doesn't it? My defects of character have made me shitloads of money. I've learnt the cash register honesty stuff, I've learnt how to play the game of life. And I've had a lot of success, really. Especially, I was someone that couldn't sign on time. I'd be down as unemployable, so I had a special thing, where they just give me my money, It's like, well, you can't possibly, if it's criminal record, you can't possibly give him a job, and, you know. So I was in this little section of people where, you know, I'd almost institutionalised myself. So you know, I couldn't, you know, operate successfully, and but they say, you know, who's driving the bus? I think looking back, and hindsight's a wonderful thing. If you stay around a while, you'll probably find this yourself. I was sort of driving that bus, steering my life, building my life, but it's very much of what I thought would make me happy, what I thought I needed to be a success, you know. And you know, and out, you know, when I was using, I was trying to be this, you know, like this sort of plastic gangster sort of character, really. I was just trying to, do you know what I mean? I was trying to, that would keep people away from me, you know. And then I got clean, and then in recovery, oh, no, I'd be the good little addict. Look at me now. Do you know what I mean? It's still look at me, but it still keeps people away from me, you know. And then I become this success. You know, I'm in the music business now as well. Do you know what I mean? Sounds pretty good, you know. So I got all that, you know. All these things, you know, I bought my house, I've got this, all this stuff. It's been a place for me, really. It's been a place for me to, place to hide, really, and I've put a lot of my energy, a lot of my character defects have been used to sort of keep people away from that, and you know, because where I come from, you couldn't be vulnerable, you know, you can't walk down the landing and go, oh, I feel a bit anxious today, you know what I mean? You can't walk into the local crack house and say, you know, could I have one of each, you know, and I'm a bit vulnerable, to be honest with you, do you know what I mean? You want to take my trainers now, do you know what I mean? You come in fully loaded, don't you, ready to go, yeah? And then we come into this other world, which is loving and caring, and people, you know, it's took a period of like becoming aware of, you know, that I don't really need to have that stuff. I'm now in a position where, you know, nature takes its course, doesn't it? I'm now in a position where things are falling apart again, really. Things are falling apart. A lot of that stuff's gone, so I've lost, you know, it hasn't, my business is still going, and, you know, I don't know if I'll ever let go of that, but my business is still going, and, you know, I still see my children, but I'm not with a partner of my children, and, you know, it's not the, you know, it was all about having that, like, John Lewis Christmas advert effect at Christmas Day with the chestnuts on the fire. It had to, you know, it was all about, but there was no me in that. And now I find a lot of that stuff, it did serve me, don't get me wrong, it served me, do you know what I mean? I mean, in some way I become a productive member of society. I paid my tax, I turned up for my children, do you know what I mean? I did all the, well, you know, a lot of different things, really. I probably hid in work a lot, to be honest with you. I probably wasn't as available as I could have been to my children, which I think is probably more important than having the latest console, really. Do you know what I mean? Is to giving them my time. I realised it comes in many different ways, and I've just, so that sort of served me, and it did serve me, and I've given a lot of people work and everything like that. I've been around the world. I've had some. But don't get me wrong. This is not all. I'm not saying it's like a waste of time, but it was a lot of me in it. You know, there was a lot of me. It was very self-centered me in all of this. Do you know what I mean? The end gains were how I feel, and I suppose, you know, like I said, hindsight's a wonderful thing, and you know, I've been on this step 6, looking at my character defects and what I use, and I've got a lot of greed. Don't sound good, does it? I've got loads of greed. Do you know what I mean? Because I like to think I'm quite generous. Do you know, I always bought around and I fucking buy, you know what I mean? I like to be seen as somebody that's, you know what I mean? But I try and fill that void up. You know, we're left with a void, don't we? I have to fill that void up, and I've tried to do it with that, and you know, and control's another one, and anger. I've really tried, and you know, and the first time I went through the 12 steps, it's my third run, really, but I'm doing it the green and gold way. I can't believe I'm actually doing it. I've been like slagging the green and gold robots down for years, and now I'm doing the green and gold. There you go. Be careful what you judge, do you know what I mean? You end up doing it yourself, you know, stop judging other people's behaviour, you know, it stops me looking at my own, doesn't it? And I've yeah. So I'm centering myself a bit, but this anger and what I tried to do, I tried the first time round to be on. I know they say you can't do the steps wrong, but I sort of feel like I did. I feel like I tried to remove my own defects of character. I feel like I tried to control my defects. I feel like I tried to suppress them. So I would look like the good human being, the ultimate human being, dad of the year, partner of the year, adventurer of the year, and I've had some adventures. I've climbed some big mountains and everything like that, jumped out of a few one plane, but you know what I mean, there will be more. I've had my moments, do you know what I mean? But it's like I've orchestrated all the events really, and in the step it says we humbly asked him to remove our defects of character. It doesn't say I'll remove my own defects. I haven't got the power to do that. And when I try and hide them, when I'm not honest, that's what I'm saying. When I'm not honest, honesty is a massive part of this step. Is being honest. Then I know what's going on for me. I'm not in denial with it, because I try to hide my anger and then I'd explode. And I know in some of the other literature, there's we no longer need fight, fear, guilt, anger, all these things. I ain't got to fight anymore. I'm allowed to have them things. They've been put there for a reason, and it ain't down to me to remove them. All I can do is work the step and let go of the result. And I suppose I have to have the vision of my higher power, I have to trust that process really, because I've got no guarantee of how it's going to turn out. In my head, it's like my head doesn't, wants not to trust. My head wants not to trust. I want to go with my head because it looks like a safer option. When I you make a decision from your heart, there's no guarantee of that result, but it does give you a real connection with your higher power, I believe, or, you could say, because you don't have to believe in God. That's another thing you really don't, connection with yourself, connection with your conscience. Because I've got this moral compass in me, which is quite, I've got quite a strong moral compass. But I keep trying to cheat it. I keep wanting to do little switches all the time, be a little bit dishonest here or do these things here, because I think I'll be better. I'm not trusting, So trust is a big part of this, and because I want the instant hit. That's the thing. Patience as well. I want the instant gratification that these defects give me, and I suppose through step 6, I've been looking about how these demand, they actually weaken you. So now I feel like I've got this, now I almost feel like I don't fit in to my old, like I didn't fit into my, when you first get clean, you didn't really fit into your using, you didn't feel comfortable in the meetings, but you didn't feel comfortable with the people in recovery. It was a bit like that now with my work, with everything. I feel like I've got this, I feel like I've got this, all these character defects, and I've got this like suit on, this like ego suit or whatever, but I'm sort of getting to think, actually, that's not really who I am, so I think the most wonderful thing about the 12 steps, I think, is you get to be yourself, you get to connect with yourself. And it's took me 20 odd years to get connected to myself, honestly. If you want to know, they say do the steps slowly. I don't know if I've done them slowly, but I've certainly got this stuff slowly. I look at some people these days and people I sponsor and I think, God, how did you get that? They inspire me and they show me what I'm not actually doing. I know the process, And humility is about being yourself, being honest, innit? I've got good points, I've got really good points about myself, you know what I mean? I'm quite loyal, I'm quite trustworthy, I keep my mouth shut, I did in jail and I do it now, do you know what I mean? I'm good, I can be quite kind and everything, but I can also be, quite mercenary, quite cruel, thank you, it's about have I got the willingness? So step 6 says, have you got the willingness? Am I willing entirely ready to have all my defects of character? Do you know what I mean? I'm thinking all of them? Because I want some in the back pocket to use. I really do. I don't want it to be angry. I don't want to use my anger but if someone really like, you know, I want to have it there just in case. Do you know what I mean? What am I gonna do without it? I have a lot of fear around who am I going to be without that stuff. You know, and I had an incident. You know, I'm 50. I swear on tape. There you go. I'm 58 now. I had a fight about 5 years ago because some people that worked for me robbed me at this race course in Essex. At this race course, they robbed me, and I knew the client really well, and they robbed all the alcohol, and I proper lost it because I felt so bad to this client who I've worked with for 25 years. I proceeded to lose it, and I beat this guy up in front of everybody else. I made a proper example out of him. And sad thing is, he had a drink problem. You know what I mean? He had probably a drug problem as well. Do you know what I mean? And so I could have almost been doing that to myself. Do you know what I mean? But I was so worried about, you know, the impression or what people would think, you know, that self-centeredness. And I need to get away from being self-centered. I need to get away from being self-centered, and I think really my prayer really is to become other-centered, really. And, you know, I get a chance to do that, is to get out, help other people, put myself in other people's shoes, and trust the process that if I do that, actually I'm going to get what I'm really looking for, you know. That voice in my head will settle down and quieten down, and, you know, the rest of the steps will take me through that, you know. So I actually, they say it separates, you know, the men from the boys, don't they, and the, you know, the women from the girls, you know what I mean? It's not a competitive step. It's probably a growing up step. And as I'm 58, I think it'll be about time, you know. But, love NA. You know, everyone has their own process of doing it. I'm not telling you how to do this step. I'm only telling you my experience as it was shared for me. And but as much as, and I'll sort of bring it to a close here, I suppose what I'm looking for, really, only people in NA or a 12-step fellowship would get this. What I'm looking to do is be myself, my authentic self. You know, and a lot of that's hiding, and when that stuff comes up, then I can admit my powerlessness over that stuff. I can share that stuff, I can hand it over, and leave the results. I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you.